Welcome to this Marketing Minute episode of the Pregnancy Help Podcast, a space where we pause to equip and encourage pregnancy help leaders with the marketing insight they need to reach and rescue more lives. I'm Delaney, the manager of Extend Web Services, and with me is Jack Pickering, our digital advertising specialist. Today, we're talking about something that might sound a little intimidating at first, Performance Max campaigns on Google. Now, if you are juggling 1,000 things, you might be thinking, I barely have time to write a donor letter, let alone learn some new kind of ad strategy. But don't worry, we've got you. In the next few minutes, we'll talk about Performance Max, why it matters in your center, and how to get started without feeling like you need to become a Google expert overnight. Let's dive in. So Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Delaney. How are you?
Feeling pretty good. We've had another great week. We're almost to the end of this one. And I feel like we're about to record a really good podcast. I know that you've been talking about Performance Max a lot recently, and you've seen some really good results. So why don't we just start off by explaining what Performance Max is?
Sure. Yeah, Performance Max is a fantastic Google campaign that was released just a few years ago, but it's gained widespread popularity over the past few years just because of its artificial intelligence capabilities and its widespread reach that it's able to achieve with ads. And essentially, the Performance Max campaign enables you to serve your ads across all of Google's advertising channels. So you're not just limited to serving your ads on Google search. You're actually able to have your ads displayed on YouTube, Maps, Discover, Display, and even Gmail as well. So right away, the main benefit from that is that you're able to reach the women that you want to across all of these different touch points, which ultimately helps you to improve your conversion rate and to increase the amount of calls and the appointment bookings that you're getting at your center, because you're reaching her where she's at. You know, she might be searching something relevant to pregnancy help on YouTube, and your ad can be displayed on YouTube. Similarly, if she's searching for a pregnancy clinic or a women's clinic in Google Maps, you're also able to have that ad exposure with Performance Max as well. So really getting that broader reach is a huge benefit to reach more women, and we've seen fantastic results in terms of increased conversion rates, more calls, more appointment bookings to our customer centers because they're able to have their ads not just displayed on Google search, but at all across those different touch points.
That's brilliant. And hopefully, maybe later on in the podcast, we might be able to share what some of those success stories are. But right now, I did want to touch on just a couple pieces of data. In preparation for this podcast, I was looking into, how many people are really on Google. We have artificial intelligence coming onto the scene. We've seen a bunch of different players in the market, and you're always hearing different things about like, it's best to advertise here or here or here. So I did some digging, and SEMrush reported that Google processes 9.5 million searches every minute, which is more than 5 trillion searches annually. I can't even fully grasp that number. I don't know if it's easier for you, Jack, but that one, it's too big for me to really comprehend.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's unbelievable. But again, that's why it is so important to be on Google because, the numbers don't lie. People are still searching in droves on Google, and not just on search, as I mentioned, YouTube and other channels as well. So it's never been more important to have that presence on Google.
Yeah, and we do know that everybody is on there. So if centers are going on there to reach and rescue lives, there's another group of people that are also going on there who maybe don't have the same end goal in mind. Another piece I wanted to share is just that although Google has seen a 7.9% decline in global traffic after ChatGPT's release, the search engine titan still accounts for 89.66% of the global search engine market, which is huge. So as we're talking about Performance Max, we've kind of hit on what it is, hit on some data points about why it's still relevant to be on Google. Let's hammer home a little bit more or narrow down, why should pregnancy help organizations use Performance Max in particular?
For sure. Yeah, there's a number of reasons why, but again, I'll reiterate what I've said in the beginning. You're casting a much wider net with Performance Max just because you're able to have your ads displayed across all of Google's advertising channels. You're not just siloed on Google search. And yes, search is arguably the most important, but again, we know people consume so much content on YouTube and use YouTube very much like a search engine. So being able to have that exposure and cast that wider net across all of those touch points, it really helps boost your conversion rate. I'd also touch on the point too that this campaign heavily relies on artificial intelligence and machine learning, which means that over time, the more data that you feed your Performance Max campaign, the smarter it becomes over time, the better it learns and understands what are the best audiences to deliver ads to.
Okay.
So over time, you're going to see your results improve dramatically just because Google's gathering more data month over month, and it's learning and understanding, okay, these are the types of audiences that click the call extension in the ad, or these are the types of audiences that visit the website and schedule an appointment. And those are ultimately the types of users that we want our ads to be shown to, because those are the users that are most likely to actually get in touch with a center. And we've seen it. Performance Max does the best job at doing that.
Yeah, I know that earlier this year, honestly, I think I'd just been at Extend for a month or two. We started talking about Performance Max and how you wanted to try it out with some of our centers. And it seems like there have been some pretty positive responses. Not that Google search wasn't good and effective, but taking it across all these platforms really seems to have ramped up some of the conversions or activity that some of our centers or some of our customers have been seeing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that also is because Performance Max is a much more dynamic campaign because you are leveraging creative assets, so imagery and video in the campaigns as well. So you're not just leveraging those standard text ads. You're also coupling those with imagery and videos as well. And we know in this day and age, people are consuming video content, image content on all kinds of different channels. So being able to have an ad snapshot in a visual is much more engaging than just having a text ad alone. So being able to have that more visually immersive element with Performance Max is fantastic. And that's one of the reasons as well why the conversion rates are much better, because people are able to get a much better snapshot of, what a pregnancy center is all about, services they offer, things of that nature. And another cool thing about Performance Max with regards to the visual component of it is its AI automation will automatically mix and match the different assets that you give it based on performance. So if it finds that, a certain headline and a certain description along with a certain image are working well and driving the most conversions, it will dynamically deliver that ad more as opposed to others because it's getting better results from that specific ad combination. So again, it's a fantastic tool in that sense as well, where it learns and understands how it's going to get the best results out of different ad combinations.
That's really cool. I know when I used to work with clients at other organizations, they, had their search campaigns and they had their display campaigns, and they might have a campaign on YouTube. And there definitely is a place for having specific like strategies that you're carrying out on the different platforms. But I do like how Performance Max seems to make it easier to get to different places like YouTube and Google and search and display without having to have like these individual budgets for each one, especially if you're not trying to accomplish like some multi-tiered strategy on each platform. It sounds like you're able to do a lot of really good with less effort than having it siloed out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I did want to touch on something real quick. I do think another reason that we take the time to talk about things like Performance Max, whether it's in blogs or social media or here on the podcast, is because we know how important this is. We know how important it is for pregnancy help organizations to be placed in front of the people that need their services. I've got a couple more data points for you. The first one is according to the Guttmacher Institute, which is the research arm of Planned Parenthood, 13% of women in the United States are likely to have an abortion by age 25. And this is according to statistics from 2024. An analysis shared in 2024 estimated that 1 in 4 US women of reproductive age will have an abortion by the age of 45 if the 2020 abortion rate remains. And the study found that the abortion rate was highest for 20 to 24-year-olds and here, 1 second. Can you still hear me, Jack?
Yeah, you just froze for like 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you remember the last thing I said?
You were reading off the stats about the arm of Planned Parenthood, about who will have abortions by 2025.
Okay. Okay, Christine, what I'm going to do is I don't really remember what my transition was. I'm just going to start over. So whatever the transition phrase was, let's go with that. I'm going to start over with that first statistic. According to the Guttmacher Institute, the research arm of Planned Parenthood, 13% of women in the United States are likely to have an abortion by age 25. And these are from statistics that were pulled in 2024. An analysis shared in 2024 estimated that 1 in 4 US women of reproductive age will have an abortion by the age of 45 if the 2020 abortion rate remains constant. And the study found that the abortion rate was highest for 20 to 24-year-olds, which reported 32.7 abortions per 1,000 women. In the same study, I also read that they have seen an increase in people traveling for abortion since the Dobbs decision. So, Jack, was I talking about the reason we take the time to talk about these things? Did I already say that?
I'm not sure.
Jack.
I just remember you talking about like going right into the stats. I'm trying to remember what you said, like to preface it.
Oh, you're good.
No, I thought because you said something along the lines of like, I have more data points for you.
Did I mention the reason we take the time on like the podcast and social media posts and blogs?
I don't remember.
Oh, since we're taking a break real quick, and Christine, when I jump back into it, it'll be after the per 1,000. Oh, it'll be after the increased traffic since the Dobbs decision. Jack, after this, what are you wanting me to ask you? Do you want me to ask you how targeting works? Like, what's the next best thing to go into?
Yeah, targeting would be good.
Okay, sweet. So I said their data points. And I mentioned the travel. So this is why we want to get as many pregnancy help organizations as possible in front of the men and women who are in need of your services. So, Jack, I'm backing away from my data points. Let's dive back into Performance Max. Take us through targeting. How does it work on Performance Max?
Sure. So targeting is quite more advanced in a Performance Max campaign compared to just a standard search ad campaign. Okay. And one of the key distinctions is that Performance Max leverages something called search themes as opposed to keywords. And you can think of search themes as very similar to what keywords are. They're essentially things that you believe that your target audience is searching for. Okay. So very similar to keywords, but they're search themes that essentially help guide the system to understand better what types of audiences the ads should be delivered to. So, for instance, some of the search themes that you could potentially deploy could be pregnancy help near me, women's clinic, things like that. You really put yourself in the mind of your primary client and think about what are they searching for. And that's how you kind of craft your search themes. And again, giving the system those data points is crucial because it helps it better learn and understand which types of audiences to reach with the ads based on what types of things they're searching for and what types of content they're consuming as well. So Search themes is they're huge signals that you're giving the system. That's
Hmm.
one component of it. And the second component of the Performance Max campaign targeting is interests and detailed demographics. So you're able to put yourselves in the mind of your primary audience and really think about and understand who they are, what their interests are, what stage of their life they're in. You're able to add all of these different parameters into the campaign. And again, these signals are vital to give to the system so that it better understands and
Hmm.
learns these prime audiences that it needs to deliver the ads to. And last but not least, there is a third component of the targeting parameters within the Performance Max campaign, and that is leveraging data of previous visitors to the website.
Okay.
So if someone has, visited a particular web page on your website, but they didn't take it the desired action, let's say they visited the book appointments page, but they didn't schedule it, system is able to learn and understand that type of user profile, and it's able to resend the ads to that user as well. So having all three of these layers together, you have the search themes as signals, you have the interests and detailed demographics, and then you're leveraging that retargeting data of people that have already visited the website. This is a very powerful recipe to really refine your strategy in allowing the system to reach these ideal audiences, and it's giving it a much better picture and understanding of who these audiences are.
Wow, that does sound like it is a bit of a powerhouse. But I know some people listening to this might wonder, can this really tell the difference between someone just researching and someone who needs help now? So what do you say, Jack?
I say yes. I would not underestimate the power of Google's artificial intelligence
Hmm.
and machine learning capabilities. They're only going to continue to improve over time. And I would not doubt that you will continue to see fantastic results in your campaign as time goes on, as the system learns,
Hmm.
understands, and becomes smarter. So I would say yes, it does. It would be able to understand that difference between someone who is in active need versus someone who is simply researching.
I do think that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jack, Performance Max is, like you said, good for that person who is in active need. You're wanting to get to them. But to a certain degree, it also helps with brand awareness, doesn't it? By putting you in front of people who either might know people who need the services or who might one day need your services themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it's so beneficial to have that visual component in your
Hmm.
campaign. Because if someone's able to see the branding of your center, they're going to be a lot more inclined to remember it and
Mm.
to feel more of a connection and to ultimately feel more comfortable about reaching out to your center at some point in time. Maybe they don't, like you said, maybe they don't need immediate help at the moment, but even just having that touch point where they see, okay, this is a legitimate center. They have nice branding. This feels like it would be a comfortable place to go.
Hmm.
That's super important, and you get that type of brand awareness exposure with Performance Max because of that visual component in the campaign.
Okay. I do want to touch on the budget and kind of vision cast what this might look for like for people. But before we do that, and it might feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point, so sorry. But people who have had an online, like had presence through Google Ads, they've done Google search, they're probably listening, thinking, listen, search has always worked for us. Do I really need to mess with it? And so if somebody is thinking that right now, Jack, what would you say?
I would say to not be intimidated and to definitely at the very least test a Performance Max campaign. If you're already running ads on Google search, for instance, that's fantastic. But I would say, especially if you really want to maximize your dollar, Performance Max really is a no-brainer in my opinion. just because, again, you get that massive exposure, added exposure that you do compared to just running a standard search campaign.
Hmm.
And you don't need to be intimidated by budget either. You can have relatively lean budgets, you know,
Sure.
between the $300 to $500 a month range, and you'll still see fantastic results. You'll still get calls, appointment bookings, people reaching out at your center. So I would just say go for it, especially if you are already on Google Ads and you haven't tested a Performance Max campaign out yet. I honestly guarantee that you'll see better results than just running your standard search campaign.
Okay. So let's dive into the budget a little bit more, though, because I have been on enough calls with you where I know that that 300 to 500 is what you typically tell someone if you're talking about like what a healthy base budget looks like. But let's talk a little bit about like, so the base is 300 to 500. What does it look like when you're looking at expanding it? How can you tell if you need to spend more money? How can you tell when you've capped out? You're at a good place. Maybe the population or the competition isn't so fierce, so you don't need a huge budget. Maybe it is, and so you do need to increase it. So, like, how would someone go about figuring that out?
Yeah, there's a number of ways you can do that, but I would say it ultimately comes down to your center's goals.
Mhm.
So if you want to increase the call volume, appointments, walk-ins, etc., then definitely looking at spending the most amount that you can would be the best course of action, in my
Okay.
opinion, because Google, it is very much pay to play. And the more you spend, the more people you will reach. That's just how it works. We have some customers that they spend significantly more on Google. So they're spending over $1,000 a month,
Hmm.
and they're in a great spot because they have the capacity at their center to take on more
Yeah.
clients. So it really is a case by case basis. If you have a center and you have that capacity and you want to increase the amount of clients that you serve, then by all means spend as much as you can on Google and you will see the results. But it all depends on your center's goals. And if you're in a good spot, let's say you have a budget of $300 a month and you're in a good spot, you're serving just the right amount of clients that you want to each and every single month, then that's fine. You can stay at $300 a month. But it really just depends on kind of where you're at in your growth stage of your center. Are you ready to take the next step and grow further, or are you
Hmm.
content where you're at and you like the return that you're getting from Google Ads?
Jack, if competition in your area started to increase, like I know how, or at least I think I know how it works for Google search ads, but Performance Max is a little bit of a new beast to me as well. And so I don't know, like, do you, like for Google search, it'd be like price per click. And if you saw that amount increase, then that would hint at some kind of competition in your area. Do you see something similar for Performance Max ads?
Yeah, so it still is measured by the same metric, more or less. Like
Hmm.
cost per click is still a very important metric to look at. It does determine traffic costs. So ultimately, how much you're spending in the auction
Hmm.
overall to have your ads clicked on. If you are experiencing increased competition, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to increase budgets right away. That could be
Okay.
one part of it. But another part of it would be looking at your targeting parameters and making sure that your ads, your campaign is set up in a way that's conducive to reaching the right audience.
Okay.
Because if your cost per clicks are high, you might not be reaching your ideal audience with your ads,
Okay.
and the system might be it might be a little bit exhausted trying to find, okay, who exactly should I show these ads to? So making
Okay.
sure that you really refine that strategy within your campaign, giving the system all the right signals it needs, that would be the first step for sure. And then I would also couple that with perhaps increasing budget as well, just so that you have a little bit more money to throw away in the auction. If you're
Okay.
competing against, if you have increased competition, you need a little bit more financial backing.
Yeah, I like that. I, speaking of financial backing, I was talking to a center director the other day who said that they are getting some things lined up at their center so that they feel more comfortable having an influx of clients, but that when they're ready to go, they have a donor who has said, listen, I want people who need your services to know about your services. Like the minute they need it, I want them to know about it. So I'm going to be backing your Google ads, which I think is amazing. So as you're listening to this and you're thinking, I don't have it in the budget, it's possible there is a donor that would be willing to back it, or a couple donors who would like to go in knowing that every month when they, pay their, like send in their checks or make the donation, that money is going to help the men and women who need to see your services at the time that they realize they need it. So that's really exciting. And so I would just say, like, don't immediately cross it off your list just because right now it's not in the budget.
Agreed.
Okay. So I think the final question I have for you, Jack, is just like, if I was in a Performance Max campaign, do I have any control over my ad content?
Yeah, great question. And that's one that we get a lot, and rightly so, especially given the nature of the industry that we are advertising within. You still have 100% control on the ad copy and the messaging that is displayed in your ads. Okay. Google is not creating that for you. They are simply rearranging headlines and descriptions and the visual assets that you create and you provide in a specific way that is going to result in more conversions. So it dynamically rearranges and finds those best combinations, but you have full control over that content. So you don't have to worry about, Google creating certain headlines or descriptions that might be a conflict of interest. There's no worry about that with the Performance Max campaign. You have full control over it.
Listen, Jack, if you tell me that there's still control over the ad content, then I'm going to believe you, because I know you work with a decent amount of our customers, making sure they continue to see strides to make sure that what they're doing online matches up with the goals they're trying to accomplish each year. And so I trust you. I know you are in the optimizations and in the controls every single day. So that makes me feel a lot better, especially since we're encouraging so many people to try out Performance Max. Jack, is there anything else you want to add?
I would just say that the time is definitely now to start advertising on Google. And we live in a great time period with campaigns like Performance Max that are so intelligent and continue to get smarter that it makes sense cost-wise to start leveraging these campaigns to reach as many people as you can and to maximize your ad spend, because we know we're in an industry where, the financial backing isn't always as much as we would like it to be, and we do what we can with what we have. And tools like Performance Max are a great way to make sure that you're maximizing that dollar, and you're also maximizing your impact in your community as well.
Wonderful. Also, just so you guys know, we are cheering you on. If you are already doing Google Ads or you're about to do Google Ads at your center, you have somebody on your team who can take these over or is already running them, then that's awesome. If you don't, that's okay. For one thing, we are putting out actionable content like today's podcast to, start you off on that path if you are wanting to do this internally. But if you don't feel as comfortable doing this in-house, we would love to partner with you. So, Jack, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so I'm always happy to hop on a call if you want to get in touch. You can go over Performance Max more in detail, go over our Google services more in detail, so I can let you know what all that entails. But if you want to get in touch with us, you can send an email to support@extendwebservices.com, and that would be the best way to get in touch.
And I think that's it for Performance Max. It is a wrap. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and we hope to hear from you soon.